So many people right now are stuck inside due to the coronavirus, quarantine, social isolation type of policies that many governments have instituted. Now, for me, this is nothing new. I have been a shut-in for a long time, for many years. What does a shut-in mean? I wouldn't go as far to call myself a full-on hikikomori. I know people would get frustrated with me in the comments because, I'm not a NEET. I have to go to uni sometimes. But in general, in the past, I've spent up to 2 months without leaving my house or except to go to the shop to buy beer and cigarettes and stuff like that. But generally staying inside for like 2 months, multiple occasions. So let me give you some tips and tricks for the general extroverts out there who may not be used to this and how to not go crazy. Because I've seen a lot of posts, as I'm sure you all have, on social media about people struggling to not go mad from social isolation. Now, the first and most important point, in fact, this is going to be the basis of my entire argument, is that your brain is a problem-solving machine. It's made to solve problems. If you don't solve problems, you're going to go nuts. So, most people get their fix of problem solving from work, and then when they get home they just want to relax and watch some media that's easy to consume, that doesn't challenge them too much. I mean, a nice challenge is nice, some video games maybe, but nothing that is too stressful, because obviously you've just come home from a day of hard problem solving at work. Now, without work like that, you're going to have to create your own problems to solve. That sounds silly, but let me give you an explanation. So really, you want to just be engaging as much of your brain as possible. And this is going to start with things like switching your media consumption habits up. So I know a lot of people will probably have the experience, have the time to stay home, and a lot of time to sort of to yourself with not much to do, and you'll default to the same habits you had when you got off work. And that means sort of chilling, watching Netflix type of shit. Now, there's the problem, because Netflix is not meant to challenge you. These mass media things are not meant to give you problems to solve. Some of them have various levels of in-depth plots, moral conundrums, stuff like that. But in general, your standard TV show is made for a mass audience and therefore caters to be as easy to consume as possible. And you don't want that. What you want is something that's going to genuinely challenge you, and more importantly, keep your brain lit up in all the right areas. And not just because they're really interesting to consume, not just because they're better stories, but also to stop you from going nuts. And the first step towards that, we're finally getting to the argument, or the point, is to switch from TV to books. I know, it's crazy. Who reads books in 2020? But just the act of reading a book rather than seeing it on a TV screen makes your brain have to do a lot more work. Rather than having all the information presented to you in front of you visually and auditorily, you have to actually imagine those things for yourself. You have to use your brain power. You have to actually, conceptualize, read what you're doing and interpret the words. Now, reading a book, if you haven't read a book in a long time, as I know a lot of people haven't, including me when I got back into reading, is a struggle. So, start with something simple. Right now I am reading, where is it? It's somewhere on my floor. I'm reading House of Leaves. I'm also reading some non-fiction, which is my next point, is that you don't want to just read fiction. The great thing about being stuck at home is that you have plenty of time to learn something, learn a new skill. You probably have some sort of hobby, but if your hobbies are all passive and based on consuming rather than creating, again, you're going to go nuts. If your hobbies mostly include watching things or even reading books, you're going to go insane. You need to have hobbies that are productive rather than just consuming. You need to have some sort of creative hobby. It doesn't matter if it's something really basic. It doesn't like, you may think, I'm not an artist. I can't create art. I don't have an artistic creative bone in my body. Well, the truth is, you're a human being, and human beings live to create things. They live to create scenarios. If you think you don't have a creative bone in your body, that's not true, because you've had conversations with people in your life, and those conversations come from your brain. You're creating words out of nowhere. You're creating concepts. Everyone's creative. You may just not be particularly maybe you're more mathematically minded, and I'm going to give you a tip right now. If you're more mathematically minded, it doesn't matter if you draw something that you think would seem, I'm talking about drawing. You could do anything. You could make a song. But the great thing is you can teach yourself these new skills because we have the internet. We have encyclopedias. You can learn anything these days, right? you can teach yourself to program. If you've ever wanted to do that, now is the perfect time. You're locked up in your room for a few weeks. You can just have the sort of self-motivation to do this sort of thing. Or I'll now give you a random drawing exercise that I like. I did this a lot as a kid. If you're more mathematically minded and not particularly artistic, this is probably going to be a good one. It's very satisfying if you have that sort of mindset. So let me give you some demonstration right now. So here's what you're going to need for this exercise: a piece of paper, a pen, and something straight, preferably a ruler, but I couldn't find a ruler, so I'm going to be using this random book. North Face of Soho. Good book. Anyway, here's what you're going to want to do. You basically want to create some graph lines, like you're doing a graph in math class. You want to create an X and a Y axis. You could do this either as like a sort of plus shape or, just like an X and Y. There we go, that'll do. That's roughly in the middle, so it should look like this, right? Again, this is where you need a ruler, because then you need to mark out equal spaces. I'm just going to try and do it by eye. I might fail. Okay, that'll do. You just want to mark out some equal spaces. Now, you may think this is kind of weird. Why are you doing this? Is this like some sort of weird fetish you have? I don't know if you think that. But like this may not seem like a normal activity to do. Well, if you're really bored, it's very satisfying. I'm not saying you sit down and just do this for hours on end. You might go even more nuts then. But if you just put on some music, just start drawing these interesting shapes, it can be quite fun. This is the point I'm making here is that you don't. Have I got equal at 1, 2, 3, 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, I fucked up here. The point I'm trying to make here is that it doesn't have to be something particularly arduous. So now I've got something like this. This is not great because ideally you want a ruler. Everything is equally spaced. But then what you want to do is connect the bottom one to the last one, so the first to the last on the other axes. So it should look something like, let me try this, that, right? And then you want to go through, so then the second from the bottom, you'll going to the second from the end. So, like that, and then continue that all the way up until you finish one side. It doesn't need to be neat. I mean, you're not doing this for anyone else, right? You're just doing it for yourself until you get this really nice shape, just a really satisfying curve, and then you can just do this for all the sides. I'm not doing this very neat because I'm trying to do it quickly. Yeah, you just do this for all the sides, and eventually you're going to end up... I didn't do that very well. You see, this is why you need a ruler, because then you end up with one side in a different shape than the others. But, you see, if you do this for the whole thing, you get sort of a nice, like, star shape. It's really cool. I learnt this from Line Rider, believe it or not. You know, Line Rider, the Flash game? This is how people used to make curves. An easy way to make, like, a smooth curve in Line Rider. And I tried doing it in real life once when I was bored in school, and it's very satisfying. It's just a really fun shape to draw. You could draw them in all kinds of orientations. They just look nice. They tickle something in my brain. Maybe for you, this will just be, you might think I'm nuts. You might think I came here for interesting activities to do during a quarantine, and you're telling me to draw weird graphs on a piece of paper. But this is the whole point, is that you're no longer, you no longer owe anyone anything. You no longer owe it to yourself to do something that other people would find not weird. There's no social stigma anymore. What you can do is just anything. Bam. That's a cool shape. I didn't do it very neatly. It's much longer on this side. This curve is weird. But if you have a ruler, you can do it much better than that. So that was just I'm not saying you have to go out and draw that exact shape. I hope I'm making this clear. The point is you want to just be doing something, like even something simple like that, put some music on in the background, draw some random shapes like that, and then you might think, well, you know what? What if I just coloured in every other square? What if I went through and coloured that one, didn't colour that one, coloured that one, coloured that one, did some interesting checkerboard pattern. And then you could build off of it, like, well, what if I connect these sides? I don't know what's going to happen, never done this before. What if I connect these sides? Or what if I were to draw another two lines like this? How am I going to do this? What if I was to take one from here, and then do the same thing here with the connecting lines? Like, I'll do it quickly without doing any rulers, but like you get all sorts of interesting geometric shapes from that. Basically what I'm saying is you just want to doodle. You want to doodle. You want to be doodling whatever you can do. Cause trying to compose a fucking symphony is not going to work. But if you just pick up your guitar and start making random songs, you're improvising. That's activating your almonds. That's what you want to be doing. You want to be keeping yourself active. So far we've got read books, including non-fiction, and teach yourself new skills, and be creative, draw something, even if it only looks good to you, because you're not drawing for the end product, you're drawing for the journey, and it doesn't have to be drawing, it can be any creative exercise. And don't think, again, I don't know how to explain this to someone who hasn't lived this lifestyle for a long time, but it's going to be a paradigm shift. You're not beholden to any expectations. I had a friend who really, really liked building robot mecha in a virtual Lego program. He used to like this. It was like Lego you could build on the computer, and he would make mecha models like virtual, like kind of big fighting robots, and he would make hundreds of these, and they were like. He got really good at it. They were like, he would make ones that were super big and intricate, but he would also try and challenge himself to use the simplest shapes he could, as least blocks as he could, to make a convincing mecha. Like, no one outside of his own mind would particularly think that was, like, people might be like, that's a weird hobby, but in reality, it's kind of cool. Like, that's kind of a neat, fun, like, I can imagine having that being really fun. Or if you just like to play Minecraft, or if you, I don't know, you like to build toy train sets, something like that. Your hobbies that are accepted by society are not going to really do you any help. You need to really dig down deep inside of you and find the little nugget of autism. You need to find the little nugget of autism deep inside of you. Now, I am autistic, so that's quite easy for me, but if you're not, you need to dig deep and try and find the autism, because that's what's going to keep you sane. These specific hobbies that your brain can do. There you have it. The world is coming to an end, so be comfortable in yourself. There's no point in trying to act cool when no one's around, and there's no point in doing things that you've been doing up until this point, because you have a great chance to teach yourself a new skill right now. You can go online, you can find PDFs of anything. You can even go on like, don't tell anyone I told you, but you can pirate academic papers on Sci-Hub and LibGen and stuff. Like, you could do anything. You could read about fucking the 20th century Germany coal industry or something. You could. The entire world. You could learn about botany. You ever been interested in botany? Bet you haven't. I bet you've either never thought about botany in your life, or you only care about botany. Why don't you look into botany? It's really interesting. There's some crazy plants get up to some crazy shit, man. What about any physics? Another science? Learn about quantum mechanics. There's loads of lectures on it online. You can sit a whole MIT course online. You could just go on YouTube and find whole lectures. You could find Richard Feynman lectures. You could do anything. Why are you stuck here watching your fucking Netflix shows, playing the same video games over and over, when you could be learning? And you don't have to learn anything that you think is useful to society. Anything that interests you. There's a great series on YouTube called Lego Rewind, where there's a guy and he goes through every single Lego release, every single like Lego brand, like Bionicles, Lego City type of shit, and he talks in depth about every single one. It's fascinating. It's some of the most fascinating shit I've ever seen. I never even thought about that someone would do something like that before. What about, I don't know, you could start watching fucking anime if you want. You could start being really into, I don't know, 90s video games. Have you ever, everyone claims they like the old classic video games, but have you ever actually played Wolfenstein? Like, go play it. You could download it for free. It's great. Quake, great fun. Counter-Strike 1.6, great fun. Great fun. Servers online everywhere. I've been getting into CS 1.6 recently. There's infinite stuff you can do to entertain yourself. You don't have to just sit there bored out of your mind going nuts because all you're doing is drinking and watching the same two shows on Netflix over and over again. That's not going to keep you entertained for weeks or months that you're stuck inside. You got to do something active. You got to keep your almonds activated. You got to read books, read non-fiction, get into philosophy. I bet you haven't read Hume, but you haven't fucking read Hume. Go read Hume. Go read Kant. You know, go keep up with that shit and stay off of fucking Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. It's just gonna make you depressed. Unless you follow like really interesting people, which you probably don't. But there's no point. You have better things to do with your time. You're bored inside. The temptation is to scroll through Twitter and find everyone with their fucking takes about Corona. It's not important. It doesn't matter what these random people think about Corona. What matters is, you could be using this time to learn about the universe. You could be using this time to teach yourself an instrument, to create art, to learn about science, to learn about philosophy. You could do anything, and you're sitting here fucking watching Netflix